Aloha and welcome to Marriage on the Spot. We're your co-hosts, Kent and Elizabeth Kitagawa, and we want to talk today about love.
Oh.
And actually, you know that we, of course, think of love as this kind of amorphous, ethereal, kind of a smoke, this smoke and mirrors kind of thing almost, because it's mysterious, in terms of how people try to define love. But, love has actually pretty well defined by relationship experts, and especially we wanted to take this definitions of the stages of love by authors Les and Leslie Parrott, and who wrote a really very well-known and very popular, marriage preparation courses called "Saving Your Marriage Before it Starts."
In short, SYMBIS.
SYMBIS.
We're taking lots of young couple or new to be couple through those classes, the SYMBIS classes. Save your marriage before it starts.
And even, it's they list on the subtitle of the book. It says 7 questions that you should ask before, or even right after you get married. So these are relevant issues that that they bring up, and that we have and many, I think many churches especially like to use this as a resource to prep our couples for their marriage, entry into that married life, and give them a success, a shot of success there.
It's important to ask the right questions before, and not be afraid of asking and thinking, I'll find out eventually. Find out before. Talk about it before.
But the interesting thing is they have, they have put forth here that there's these 5 stages that our marriages go through, this married love goes through. And they, like I say, this is through research. These stages are pretty well defined, and this is what we'd like to share right now, as far as helping people to understand, and maybe understand where you're at right now, and that you're not, maybe you're in a place where there's some struggling going on. Well, that's okay, because that's a part of our maturing.
Getting to know each other.
Right, maturing in our love, throughout our lives together. So the initial stage is romance, and of course, big duh, right? This is what gets us, together in the first place. It's that what we call that, that biological hormonal reaction or response, where we, two young people, we see each other and we kind of go, wow, this person just, it just becomes a, we get this boost, and especially as we start to talk, and they are open, to those, to this conversation with us, and spending time together and laughing together, and wow, they get their jokes, and all these kinds of things. We have common interests sometimes, a lot of times, sometimes we take up new interests just because we want to spend time together, and so this is that initial stage, especially as we are dating and go through that courtship and finally get married, and we start to build our life together, that initial stage, and that newness of the relationship, of being together, and feeling like, but the thing is, there's a certain what do you call that? It's not real. It's unrealistic, because we think, right? We've reached this pinnacle, and it could never get better than this. But the thing is this: we forget that a lot of that, is hormonal, and has to do with our biological, with our brain, being flooded with dopamine, with a feel-good, we get this feel-good neurotransmitter flooding our brains, and we're on a high. In fact, they've described that the levels of this dopamine in our brains very close to what an addict has, when they're taking cocaine, crack cocaine, they're all high on that level, right? So you can imagine this.
Now you really got me.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know why?
Huh?
I share.
Okay.
When I was a little girl, they always called me the little Japanese. I don't know. I grew up in Switzerland. I didn't know nothing about Japanese except they look different. I never knew the difference between Chinese and Japanese and some other Asian cultures. But I always said, oh my gosh, these are so wonderful people, those Japanese. I couldn't even talk to them. I just thought, cute smile. And then later on, when I was a teenager, there was a lot of people, maybe my parents' age, they adopted Oriental kids from Korea, Vietnam, and other places like that, and brought them to Switzerland, and that was the big thing. That family with that little Oriental kid, oh, that girl, you should see her, and all that. And eventually I just got so taken from that, and I said, oh, one day I'd like to have such an Oriental little girl, but I don't know how. I'm howling. And then eventually, I got an invitation to come to work in Hawaii as a missionary, you could say, or as a counselor for Teen Challenge. And I came to, they said it's in Hawaii, it is in Hawaii. And I thought, oh, what is in Hawaii, I heard from Hawaii hula hula and grass shacks and stuff like this, but nothing much more than that. And then I went to the library. We didn't have computer at that time. Yes, I'm a pre-computer person. I still sometimes feel like one. And so I went to the library to check out Hawaii. And it said over 70% Orientals. And I go, oh, wow, they have Orientals over there? Wow. And I read more and more about Hawaii how far it is from Switzerland. It scared me a little to tell my parents. But eventually I did tell them, and I said I have a correspondence with the director in Hawaii, and maybe one day I'd like to go there. And then when I got here, I was so amazed about so many Orientals, and I just was so excited. And one time we were with some friends by the beach, and And I remember that was Ellie. She said, "Go talk to that guy over there. Talk to that guy. Try make a conversation. He's Oriental. I'm sure he's going to talk to you." And of course, my English was very, very minimal. But I did talk to the guy. And you know what? The guy is sitting next to me now. And we are 43 years married in 2 months. Anyway, and we have half, hopper, Oriental kids. And
By the way, it's 4 months.
Yeah, it's in 4 months. I realized that by the time it airs, it might be 3. Yeah, it's March 3rd.
Mm-hmm. No.
7, March 7th. You see, you're still throwing me off. Those Orient. March 7th, 1981.
There you go.
Got it right?
Got it right.
Oh
yeah.
my goodness. Okay, now those Orientals, they throw me off. Now I'm confused. Anyway, I was just so taken by that. And then many years later, we had some friends from Switzerland, and the wife told me the guy was into cars. It was a car automat, or what do you call it?
He was a
mechanic and all that.
Right.
And
Well,
he said, "Oh, you know, his big dream is that he can drive a vertical." Now I can't even think
a Mustang.
about it. Yeah, Mustang convertible here in Hawaii. And so he came and rented that convertible car. And he was on cloud 7 to drive up and down on the freeway. I said, "Really? Now everybody here who will see you will know that you are a tourist." And then when it rained, he was disappointed a little bit because he had to finally close the thing, you know. But we still love how he was just so enthusiastic, in love with that convertible car, just like I was.
Right.
And so many other people. I remember when they had the first own house, you know, everything was about the house. Oh, you should see the house, and you want to come, and we let you see the house, and we want you to do this and that, and you know how it is. When you have something new, you want it to, most of the time, you want to show it and share it and have the people experiencing. You can be in love with a lot of different things. It must or cannot be only with people sometimes.
Yeah, the relationships, you know, all of these new, it's that newness, right? You know, and we get so enamored of that newness, and so we can forget, you know, the realities, or we ignore the realities.
Yes.
And which actually takes us to the stage 2, is when we start to actually now, you know, that high can only stay, and they've measured this, you know, up to about 24 to 36 months. We can sustain that level, right, of being, you know, on this euphoria, you know, and then the brain has to come down.
Yeah,
it has
come
to
down to reality.
Realistic levels, and that's when we start seeing the flaws in the person. You know, they put their underwear on the floor, or they, you know, they're very inconsiderate about, you know, leaving things out on the table and not cleaning up dishes and blah 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 blah. Right, those kinds of things that become irritations, become annoyances. And so the second stage is this power struggle, what they call the power struggle, right? Where we start to, you know, trying to adjust and trying to adjust the other person a lot of times, you know, to comply with, you know, how we do things, and who's going to be, you know.
What was our big struggle at the beginning?
Oh, well, time, you know, that's relevant. That's a relative thing.
In Switzerland, you know, Swiss watches are famous for lots of things. For once, they are very exact. But everybody in Switzerland wears a watch. Now maybe they have electronic, but at that time not. And everywhere, on every bus stop, everywhere is watches. And they announce, sorry, the bus will be 2 minutes late. We apologize. Then I came in Hawaii here. 15, 20 minutes late is nothing. They call it Hawaiian time. And I could not believe how many people could survive in Hawaiian time. Why, I totally got frustrated with that, being late. And when we first talked to our pastor about the idea of maybe one day getting married, he first said, not you two. You are too different. And I said, well, tell me one thing. He said, maybe just one thing. It's timeliness. You mentioned many times that Kent is often late. It irritates you. But you forgive him. You forgive and you forgive. But he still comes late. And then he said, and you want to be working with a group of people, you will be constantly frustrated with the whole group. Was not only a counselor, but a choir director and music director. And so that doesn't work if one starts 3 seconds before the other, or 5 seconds going the other way, or whatever. That wouldn't work. You guys have to adjust. And then we said, well, I really am in love, and so is he, so we will adjust. It took some time, but it took really time. And now we sometimes laugh and say, he is on time and I'm late.
Yeah, now I'm the one going, you know, we're going to be late.
But I'm pretty good now.
Yeah.
I adjusted to both. I excuse the others and also try to be on time now.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah. And anyway, so other things, you know. And then I remember when we first we moved to Switzerland first for a year or a little more. My mother thought, oh, she has that Oriental. I have to make him a pot of rice. We didn't have a rice cooker at that time. That didn't exist in Switzerland yet. So she cooked him rice. I guess here you call it Uncle Ben's rice. And he thought, that is very strange, that rice is just falling off the fork. Of course, we didn't have chopsticks at my mom's place. And so we learned the term, or I learned the term sticky rice. Now, if we would get a sticky rice in Switzerland, we would return it to the cook. Said, you know, that rice is not cooked right. It's all mushy, it's overcooked, it's too sticky. Can you ask the cook to make regular good rice? I had to learn it now. I'm so used to that. First time eating poi and go, oh, you eating that? You give that to the kids? That stuff you give to the kids? I got used to it. I'm not necessarily ordering it on the thing, but when it comes with poi, I eat some. And so many other meals, you know, where I had to learn to adjust. And that showed love.
Right.
Showing love to each other when it's at first inconvenient, maybe.
And it comes up a lot of different things, you know. You know, sometimes it's you know, a lot of personality things that we learn to deal with. You know, our different quirks. You know, maybe our spouse is not a morning person, you know, and so they whereas you're ready to, get up and face the day, or you really want to, get out and go running, early in the morning. And you're that type, and your spouse is, no, don't bother me before, 9 o'clock.
No, I was a morning person.
Yeah. So, and those kinds of things. But we learn, these things and many other different things. It can be in all areas of life. Finances, sex, whatever it is. That affects us, that cause friction. And we try to, we have a difficult time adjusting to that, our spouses different ways.
One is a saver and the other is a spender.
Right. Or one lives by a budget, very religiously, and they want to, they want to stay within the means, while the other one says, we can, be more flexible, and tends to overspend, really is maybe obsessive about, buying certain things, So these are the things that can cause those frictions. So learning to deal with that.
Yeah.
To cope with that, that can, be a real struggle. Like we say, a power struggle. They call that a power struggle, and it's not something we may even consciously think of in those terms, but that's what's happening. It's this wills, the struggle of wills. So what happens is, and this is what they say, a successful passage through this stage enables each partner to say, okay, so I am willing to admit that my romance with a perfect partner is an illusion. It's, and that's the thing. It's dealing and getting over that disillusionment, the loss of that initial, dream state, and that being convinced that we were this, perfect soulmates. Well, perfect soulmates don't just happen. It's a process.
Yeah.
And this is what we're talking about here. And so that once we are able to let go of that and come down to a more realistic view of our relationship, of what love is, then we can move into stage 3, which is cooperation. See, and cooperation, they say, is like a breath of fresh air for couples who have been going through, the struggles, and they've stayed together, they stayed the course, have worked things through, and so they're accepting, and they find, a level of acceptance of one another, with all of the idiosyncrasies, with all the
all the different food,
and whatever,
I'm so used to the sticky rice now. I wouldn't even remember how to cook rice in the pot and make it fall apart, or whatever, or all the bread I like to eat. I'm a bread person. You eat in Switzerland, in most European country, you eat bread for breakfast, bread and something small, maybe. Maybe bread and a hard-boiled egg, or bread and
some cheese or something.
Some small thing. And now the breakfast getting complicated and complicated, and I started liking it too. However, bread is still my your comfort food. Especially the braided bread, which you can buy now in some stores. Before I had to bake it myself. And I like the way they put this here. Couples in this stage,
of cooperation. Realize that love is not so much about looking outward at the other person, expecting the other person to fulfill us, but as it is about looking inward at themselves and taking responsibility for their own personal problems. You know, accepting, you know, that I have this responsibility to deal with and to be responsible for my own happiness. You see, and that's the thing. We, you know, expect this other person to make us happy, to, you know, to fulfill all of our, you know, our needs and desires and things, and it's, you know, when we recognize that we sometimes, I mean, our own worst obstacle, yeah, we're our own worst obstacle in finding fulfillment. Okay, and then from there, once we can redefine love by coming to grips with our fears and defenses and all those inner baggage that we have, then we can move into what they call mutuality. Now, this is where we really build a sense of identity. Mutuality means a shared identity with one another, that we have the sense of oneness. It's no longer you and me, but it's
us.
we.
Oh, yeah.
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 Us, you know, we, you know. And when we hit this, that is a radical change.
Yeah.
That's a radical change in understanding.
Become one.
Yeah. When we start to come that oneness, you know, to build that sense of unity, and that spiritual, you know, that's, I should say, that mutual intimacy with one another. And the final one is co-creativity. That is kind of where I think we're at. And that is where
you get there.
We build a sense of purpose together. So hopefully, you know, as you move through life together, you'll reach all these stages. Okay, but no matter where you are, remember, to extend that empathy, compassion to one another. God bless you.
God bless you, and aloha.